If you own a home, you might have recently received your property tax appraisal in the mail, and if you didn't, you will very soon. The value the appraisal district has assigned to your home directly impacts how much you owe in property taxes at the end of the year. So if you think it's too high, you can and should protest it. You have until May 15th or 30 days from the day you receive the notice to file your protest. Here to explain what this means and how it works is Amy Davis. She has her own experience with protesting her appraisal. Amy has also helped Haley Hernandez and Anthony Yanez through the process. They're joining us from Studio B. So before I toss it over to you guys, Amy, I have a few questions I just want you to keep in mind as we move throughout this conversation. One, why should anyone want to say their home is worth less? Two, if you want to sell it, what do you need to do? And won't you want the value on record to be as high as possible?
I know where you're going with that. It's like, yeah, it's like a common misconception.
Right.
Had you guys heard this? That
yes.
Like, oh, well, if the property tax office says your home is worth like $400,000, why do you want to argue that it's worth only $350,000? Right. Because then there's this record of you saying it's only worth that, and then say you put it on the market for sell. Real estate agents will tell you that does not matter. Your value for the tax office, in fact, it would be a selling point that you could tell the buyer, I have kept my appraisal so low, your taxes are going to be lower.
I've already saved you money. I've already done work ahead of time.
Yeah, but it's work you got to do every single year.
And the market really determines what the value of your house is. So it's not your property taxes. So if you live in a neighborhood where you have a lot of expensive homes, you have a low property tax, it's going to sell based on the property values of the homes in the neighborhood.
Yeah. So last year, Anthony and I both got a tutorial from Amy, and we all three went and protested our property taxes. That's why we're here today to talk about this.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of stories like over the years, and there's not a real great format for just sitting down and sharing all of it because it can be a lengthy process.
Yes.
I think Haley brought her packet, like the packet that we took with us to the protest, but we just want to go over some basic things. I think you were very lucky last year. You had luck?
I did have a lot of luck, and I will say the first most glaring thing is that you told me they're not supposed to increase it more than 10% every year.
If you have a homestead exemption, so make sure you do that.
Yeah, and so right off the bat, do math, because I did the math and they had increased it by 10.5%.
Oh, really?
So right away they were like, okay, like red flag, you know? And so then I got to make my argument about everything else. But I think that helped me going into it, that like, hey, you guys were wrong off the start, you know? So do the math. I don't do math. My husband did it, but he told me that it was 10.5%.
And I did all the math. I didn't bring my packet, but I did all the math. And you told me, hey, look at things in your house, big items that you're going to need to replace, and that sometimes will lower the property value. And our roof is the original roof from 20 years ago, and so I know that's coming. And then air conditioning units, those are old, and I know that's coming. And our fences are starting to fall down, and that's coming. So I got appraisal. I got estimates on all of those, and I said, here's what you're charging me. And I said it should be less based on these three major things that I'm going to have to do either next year or pretty darn soon.
Yeah, because what I said is like things that you tell them, hey, if I sold my home today, because you're arguing the market value, if I put my home on the market today, these are all things that I would need to fix, or I'm not going to be getting as much for my property as I should, because the new owner will want to fix them.
So tell people too what you were explaining. You want to argue the market value because they give you two values, but why is it important to argue the market value?
Well, you argue either the market value or you can argue unequal appraisal. But so when you get the little notice in the mail, they're going to give you two figures, the appraised value and the market value. And for most people, most of the time, the appraisal district has put those values the same. And so when you argue the market value, you're basically trying to get that appraised value down. And the reason being is because that's what they tax you on, is the appraised value. So, you know, months down the road when the city says, oh, this is our new tax rate, then you're basically applying that 17% rate to the value of your home, and that's what you pay in taxes, right? But that is what you are protesting.
And that was one of the things that took the most time to actually figure out, because they give you 5 different homes to look at, and so I had to drive around my neighborhood, find these homes. And then what was strange to me was that these homes did not match my house at all. There were 2 houses that were much nicer, I mean way nicer, like $1 million homes. And then there were 2 homes that were like, wait, these are way below.
Throw
And
those
there
out.
was
Don't
one-
compare me to
And there
those.
was one that I couldn't get any information on besides just taking a picture in the front
Yeah.
yard. And so I was like, this is weird.
Right.
And so so trying to argue that was really difficult for me because I'm like, hey, I'm not worth these, but I kind of am a little better
Yeah,
than these.
right.
And so that was really tough to go into the value, but I went in and still said, hey, you're comparing me to these. This is what I found out and why. And I looked at all what they sold in like Zillow, for example, and said, hey, this is information I find. This is why all of them are nicer than mine, except for this one that I couldn't get information on.
Well, the same thing happened to me. They were comparing me to homes that were not comparable. And we have pictures of what I did was the same thing as Anthony, but I went and took pictures of the ones that I thought would be comparable.
Oh, interesting.
And they were
these
valued
are more like my home.
Yeah, they were valued much lower than mine, but they were the same builder, basically the same style. I'm guessing you can't even tell these homes apart right now because they, to me, I was like, hey, I should be compared to these,
And-
not
and
the ones
have
that
a-
you did compare me
And
to.
have a value closer to theirs.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened?
They liked that argument. To tell you the truth, I think the thing that they most found interest in, even though I did everything Amy told me, and then my very last detail was that recently a huge apartment complex has gone up, and it's changed the it's changed the appeal of the neighborhood because there's a lot of traffic now. And I used that, and they were like, "Okay, well, let's see that." I was like, "Well, I don't have a picture of that." Oops. So they pulled it up on Google Maps, and they were like, "Wow, like this is massive. Like she's right." And they took more interest in that about like basically the appeal of the area than everything else that I argued, which was that hey, those houses look the same as mine. I should be valued at their
Absolutely.
value. Yeah.
So I brought some pictures in that I used last year, and just as we're pulling those pictures up, they're like, what are we looking at here? So this is inside my house where I have some. Okay, now this is the outside. When you're talking about neighbor, we share an alley with this restaurant that constantly has delivery truck drivers like parking in the alley, blocking your driveway. I'm like, look how terrible my backyard is. The water rates are so high, I could not water my lawn.
Who would want to live here?
I know, exactly. But
Totally kidding,
but to
obviously.
start from the bottom, you'll have a little thing that you might just disregard that comes in your notice in the mail that basically tells you how you can start protesting. And the first thing you should do is go online, and in Harris County you can do I settle, or go in there and just say like, hey, I don't think my value. You could start there. Is that where you started?
Yeah, that's the first step.
And you have to give them a value that you think it is worth. And it's an easier process. And then if they come back and they lower it a little but not enough, then you can say, okay, you know what, I'm still going to take my chances and go before the appraisal review board, which is what we're all now talking about.
Right.
Where there's 3 people
Yeah.
in a room. You could do it by Zoom or in person. And we all did
Yeah.
it in person, right?
In
That's what
person.
the evidence is for. No, I did it on Zoom.
Okay.
And I will tell you that I think you guys waited a lot longer for your appointment, and mine started right on time.
Yeah, and I had another friend who told me, it's like, who knows, that
Yeah,
she had
you
a
never
lot of
know.
success in her Zoom. What I said was, well, they want to see, I feel like you can make better appeals.
Yes, that's how I
Empathy and
felt too.
sympathy
Yes.
in person, but yours was successful, and another homeowner.
Mine was. I felt like it was tough because so I'm the Fort Bend County one. So what was interesting to me is after I did all of this work, and then they started talking, I felt this small. I felt so dumb. Because what they talked about was nothing of what you had talked about and all the stories that had been about, hey, improvements, neighborhood, comparisons. I went in there, and the first line they said was, well, we're looking at your value is if we took a bulldozer and we bulldozed your house, what would it cost to rebuild your home? And this is the value, this is the cost it would be with everything. And so we believe this is the right amount.
Yeah, which is odd because no, that's not market value.
Right.
That's not what my house would sell for
And
today.
that was totally different. What was told to me was totally different what was told to you. And I didn't know if that was a Fort Bend County thing or what, but then I was like, well.
It caught you off guard,
and
so
it's
then
like,
you feel like,
felt
I
an
must not
idiot.
know something.
Right.
And then I felt like I did all this work for absolutely nothing because they're saying this is the reason. It's not about roofs and fences and air conditioners or even the value, how nice your house is compared to this other house.
Right.
It's about if you didn't have a house there and we had to rebuild it, this is what it would cost.
Right.
But you say it's not for no reason. Every year you should be protesting.
So every year you should be protesting, and we're talking about, again, about your homestead. If you have that homestead in your home, they can only, in Texas, raise your appraisal. They can only raise your appraisal by 10%. They can raise your market value higher, and your argument arguing on the market value, which is why sometimes your market value may be way higher than your appraisal. And it stinks because I go in and argue that my market value is too high, and they're like, okay, great, we'll lower it by 8%. And it's like, but my appraisal is down here. I need you to lower that. So it makes a difference in how much I'm paying my taxes for. But if you protest every year, at least online, then you've always made a chunk in it. Like, so if they say no, they say no. But if they lower it by only $10,000 or $8,000, that's something, because the next year you can almost assume they're going to raise it by 10%.
And I just got mine this year, and all the savings that I got last year, because I did get a savings, and of course you had the tax break also with that, the homestead exemption, everything put together, and they did give me a little drop just because I think they felt sorry for me, honestly.
Last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this year, all the amount that I argued and that they went down on, they went back up on this year. So I got a one-year discount, and now it's back up again.
Well, I went in, so whenever I got mine in the mail, I'm like, oh, that's not as much of an increase as I usually see every year. So I'm going back through my records to see, like, well, what did they originally come back? And I believe, now that I'm looking at it, when I originally did the iSettle online and said, hey, I think it's worth this, they came back with a number that I said, oh, that's not low enough. At the end of the day, when I looked back, that number was actually lower than the number I ended up with at the ARB 3-panel review board that took a long time to prepare this packet and do all this.
I mean, look at this packet.
Yeah, what is all this back here?
This is several years. So I'm a paper hoarder, but I keep it because there's no other place to go. Like, once you protest and they lower it, to know originally what did they say it was worth when they sent me that original thing each year. So I save all that, see what I've already argued, see what's left.
There's no official documents from like 2021, 2020.
Only the official that you can get online that shows like what it was valued at last year, like the end, what you ended up with after protests and everything. So there's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more information on click2houston.com. You can find that 30-minute Ask Amy with a text protest.
And by the way, this year I got a company, and so I got a company and said, hey, let's see what you can do.
Do you recommend those companies?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to do it yourself, you might as well use them. I mean, look at the fine print, but most of the time, if they don't get you anything off your taxes, then they don't charge you anything. A lot of them are set that if they take a percentage of what they do save you off of your tax bill. Right. So it's nominal. It's money that, if they don't do anything for you, then you don't have to pay them anything.
Yeah, and renters should also care about this.
I mean, they should care in that your property taxes are going to, most likely your landlord is not going to afford to keep your rent the same. Yeah. There's not a whole lot you can do if you're a renter, but just, encourage everybody to protest. Yeah. It's your right in Texas.
Good advice, Amy. Thank you so much for doing this with us every year and helping us out.
Yeah, here we go again.
All right, Zach, we're going to send it back to you in Studio A.
Yeah, here we go again. Amy for president.
Oh,
there's a lot of mayor. How about mayor next term?
I had less luck than both of you guys last year.
But you taught me everything I know.
Yeah, that was a lot of adulting. Really good information.
A lot of adulting.
Thank you all very much. We do appreciate it.
Thanks.
If you want more information, as Amy just said, on steps to protest your property appraisal and lower your taxes, head on over to our website, click2houston.com. There you will find a guide.